right, today we're going to be adding integers. So our objective is to add integers, and this is page 25. All right, well, let's start off by looking at the rule. If you have the same signs, meaning you have both negative numbers or both positive numbers, you're going to add like normal, and you're going to keep the sign. So for example, in this case, you have the same sign, so I'm going to add them. Well, 2 plus 6 is 8. And I'm going to keep the sign. Since they're both negative, it will still be negative. All right, and then if I have different signs, I'm actually, instead of adding them, I'm going to subtract them, okay? And then, so I can see what sign it is, I'm going to take the sign of the larger absolute value. So for example, if I just look at 8 and 12, I'm going to subtract those two numbers, taking the larger number, larger absolute value first. So 12 minus 8, well, that's 4. Well, now, which of these numbers is bigger? Well, I know 8, since it's positive, it's actually bigger, but I'm not looking at just that. I'm looking at the larger absolute value. 8 has an absolute value of 8. Negative 12 has an absolute value of 12. So this one has a larger absolute value. You can also think of it as which one looks bigger, okay? 12 looks bigger than 8. So this has the larger absolute value, so I'm going to keep the negative sign. So 8 plus negative 12 would be negative 4. Now I'm going to show you a model that helps explain why this is. Why are we adding sometimes and subtracting sometimes? Okay, so you have negative 3 plus 7. Well, first of all, I can see that they're different signs, so it would make sense to subtract based on the rule. So let's see why we do that. So I'm going to draw a picture. First, I'm going to make 3 negatives, 1, 2, 3, and go ahead and put a little negative sign on the inside. And then I have 7 positives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and put a plus sign in the middle of those. Well, when you have a negative and a positive, they actually cancel out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pair a negative with a positive and cancel those out. So this one and this one would cancel out, these two and these two. That's why we're subtracting, because they're actually a negative and a positive is canceling out, so things are being taken away. Well, now let's look and see what we're left with. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 left over, and they're positive, so my answer is positive 4. Okay? Now let's try it with this one. I have negative 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And don't forget to put the sign in the middle so you don't get them confused. Then I have negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, these are negative. Well, now I can see here I don't have anything to cancel out because there are no positives. So that's why when they're the same sign, I add them because I just put them all together. So I have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So my answer would be negative 13. I keep the sign because they're all negative, so it's still going to be negative. Okay, so now let's look at this on a number line. So first of all, I need to label my number line. And I can see that I have 2 negatives. So since they're both negative, I'm going to go ahead and put 0 all the way on this side, because I know same signs, I'm going to end up keeping the sign. I know I'm going to still have a negative. All right, and I know I'm going to just maybe go from 0 to negative 10. So let's see, this would be negative 5, negative 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, negative 9. Okay, so make sure you've labeled your number line like that. Okay, now to draw this on a number line, the first number I have is negative 2. So I'm going to start at 0. We're always going to start at 0. And we're going to go from 0 to negative 2. Now negative means going to the left. So I'm going to go 2, 1, 2, to the left, and I'm going to label that negative 2. Okay, then my next arrow, it says negative 7. Well, now I'm not going to start at 0. I just left off at -2, so I have to start from here and go back or left 7. So I'm going to just put a little dotted line here so I can see where I stopped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and I'm going to label this -7. Now I can look and just see, where did I end up? Well, that looks like I ended up right here at -9. So this would be equal to -9. And again, I can look at the rule and check this. Same signs add, 7 plus 2 is 9, and keep the sign, so it's going to be -9. Okay, and so the two numbers are your two arrows. You start at 0, you go the first number, and then from there, you do the second number. Wherever you land is your answer. Okay, so let's try that with this one. Now we have different signs, so let's see how that affects things. Again, I need to start by labeling my number line. This time I have positive and negative. And since 10 is so much larger than 3, I'm going to actually put 0 all the way here, and I'm going to go up to 10. So 5 would be in the middle, then make 4 marks. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so now, again, where do I start? 0. So I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to do the first number, which says 10. It's positive, so I'm going to go to the right. So from 0, I go 10, and I stopped right here. And I'm going to label that 10. Now, the next number says -3. Now remember, I don't start at 0 anymore, because now I've left off at 10. So from the 10, I need to go -3. Well, which direction do I go? Left, because it's negative. So I'm going to start here and go back 3. 1, 2, 3. Label that -3. Now, let's look and see where I ended up. I ended up right here. So 10 plus -3 equals 7. Now let's check my rules to see if that makes sense. It says they're different signs, so I subtract. Well, if I had 10 and 3 and subtracted them, I would get 7. And then I have a +7 because it says take the sign of the larger. Well, 10 is larger than 3, so I'm going to have a positive. Remember, we're really looking at absolute value, so you can think of it as 10 and 3 rather than 10 and -3 when you're trying to see which one's larger. So 10 is larger, so it's a +7. All right, next one. I want you to go ahead and add these. Whether that means adding or subtracting, you'll have to decide. You can use the rules, you can draw a picture, you can draw a number line. Go ahead and pick a method and pause the video and solve it yourself. Okay, now that you have solved it, let's go over and see what you got. I'm going to look at the rules first. Well, these are different signs, so I'm going to look at this rule. I subtract. So I would do 15 minus 8. Remember, you're subtracting the absolute values. Okay, so 15 minus 8 is 7. So 7. And then it says, take the sign of the larger absolute value. Well, this is 15 and this is 8. 15 is larger, so that means it's going to be +7. Again, if you drew a picture like this, you would have eliminated 8 pairs and you would have had 7 positives left over. Okay, go ahead and try the last two and then we'll see how you did. All right, now that you've done the last two, I'm going to again use the rule. These are different signs, subtract. So 21 minus 11 is 10. Now, it says to take the sign of the larger. Just remember, it's not, I know 11 is larger in value, but it's the larger absolute value. The absolute value of 11 is 11. The absolute value of -21 is 21. So again, you can think of it as which one looks bigger. 21 looks bigger, that's the sign of the larger. So -10, because there's more negatives. If you think about drawing a picture and you were canceling out pairs, you have a lot more negatives that you would have drawn, and so you'd have a lot of negatives left over, which is why you have -10 left over. Okay, and hopefully you've gotten to try this one. This is kind of like order of operations. You would just go from left to right since it's all adding. So I'm going to start by doing this pair. Well, 9 plus 8, -8, they're different signs. So different signs, subtract. So 9 minus 8 is 1. Sign of the larger, 9 is bigger than 8, so it's going to be a +1. Then I'm going to bring this down, plus -4. Okay, now I need to do this one. Again, they're different signs. So I subtract, 4 minus 1 is 3. Sign of the larger, 4, the absolute value of 4 is bigger than 1, so it's going to be -3. And you're about to listen to a song, the adding and subtracting integer song, so just keep this in your head. Same signs add, different signs subtract. Same sign, keep the sign, different, keep the larger. And I will be singing that to you a lot. Keep practicing and see you next time.